I'm sure Madeline remembered that episode because when arriving to the bar and before we run inside, Madeline demanded to me, "Don't do anything. Please don't do anything. I get the truth out of him." Obviously, she hadn't forgot what I did to the golf club staff. Zero was still at the bar when we arrived there, where Madeline rushed to the booth where he sat with his friends. She slapped his face and shouted with a loud voice, "You are bragging about me. Is that true? Answer me, is that true?" He was taken by surprise, and when he saw me standing there, he replied with a low voice, "No, no, no, of course not." Madeline wasn't satisfied with that, slapped him again and shouted, "Tell everybody here. Did you me at the swimmer party? Speak out loud so everybody can hear you." Zero replied with a louder voice, "No, no, no. I have never you. I've only told my friends that I had a dream about doing that. Only a dream, nothing real." She slapped his face again and shouted, "You are a sick bastard to try to ruin my marriage. If you're enjoying my content, consider joining my Patreon community. By becoming a patron, you'll get access to full parts of my videos much earlier than everyone else. Plus, you'll be supporting me to create even more awesome content for you. Check out the link in the description to join now." Then a lot of people interfered and went between Zero and me why it was impossible for me to do anything at all against him, and Madeline and I went back home. I can't deny that Zero's bragging about the swimmer party night had created some suspicion in my mind about what really could happen, but I didn't see a way to do any further investigations. It wasn't any overstatement to say that episode did my bad marriage even worse, especially a couple of weeks later when Zero had been severely mugged and I asked Madeline if she had been to the hospital with flowers to her dear friend. When a wife is a complaining and nagging bee, even a saint would sometimes fight back. Time went by until Madeline laid the last straw on my aching back during a barbecue at her parents' house. We were about 18 people there, most of them her parents' friends whom I hardly knew. Before the meal, I had been helping Rupert with the grill when Madeline found something wrong with the meat. Why, she got an outburst during the meal when loudly saying, "I'm sorry that my worthless bungling husband is no good with the meat. He can't do anything right." Now, meat could refer to the grill or my sea, one a rude insult and the other a very great insult. Everybody stared at me while I rise up from my chair and in a strong voice replied back at her, "Why in hell are we still living together if I give you no good meat? Madeline, I want a divorce so you will be a free bee for you to take your admirers Sebastian Nolberg or the damn horny golf pro grilling your meat. Hopefully for your sake they are much better at it than me. I've got enough of your cheating and damn nagging. Thank them for me and goodbye everybody." Nobody, not even Rupert, said anything when I took my son, went to my car, and drove home. Madeline came home only a half hour later, but to my great surprise, she was more like a small kitten than the enraged tiger I had expected her to be. She cried and said she had only complained about my grilling, not anything else, and was even wrong to insult me when I was kindly helping out her father. She begged me to forgive her and promised to be a much better loving wife in the future. 1 hour later, I agreed listen to her part of our problems. She sobbed and said, "It's not your fault that I've been AB against you. It is my own fault and disappointment because I had so big plans about my future with traveling to exotic places and working abroad. All my plans turned to crap when I got pregnant and abortion was out of question. I accepted my destiny until I began working again. Then everything felt as a prison and you were the warden. Why didn't you told me anything about that so we could divorce much earlier? I could take custody of Alexander and you could got back to your dream?" Madeline sobbed, "I don't want any divorce. You and Alexander mean everything for me. Please let us remain as a family. I promise to be a better wife if you'll forgive me and give me a second chance." I asked her, "What do you really want? This is your great opportunity to change your life and fulfill your dreams. Why hesitate now when you can skip and forget a worthless bungler as me and enjoy your life around the world as a happy single?" In her desperate efforts for getting a second chance, Madeline even suggested me giving her a good spanking for her bitchy behavior at the barbecue. But that isn't my game, why I simply said no thanks to that offer. However, 1 hour later, she had persuaded me to give her a 3-month-long trial period for a second chance as a better wife. That memorable night, Madeline really did her best to be a good wife in bed. She got me stone hard 3 times within unexpected short time, and she had no objections when I used the third for mouth effer as a kind of punishment for all nasty comments about me. We even had a long-lasting Tinder morning F as a beginning of our first day in the new happy marriage. If our relations outside of the bedroom become as good, our troubles would be over. Everything went fine until she didn't have her next period, and a test kit confirmed the situation. She was pregnant. We remained a real happy family during her pregnancy and the year she stayed at home with that child. Madeline used that time for evening classes, and I must confess that she did it very well. Back at the job, she was suggested to apply for a managing job, and to both her own and everybody else's great surprise, she got it. That meant a lot for her and our family. She got a company car and even a slight higher salary than I had. In most average families, it had been a positive matter, but due to Rupert, not in ours. At the same time, he sold his house for a very good price and promised to give a half of that money to Madeline and our children. Rupert is Rupert, so that wasn't without conditions. Rupert's main condition was that Madeline and I should split all our assets, and from that day our house was legally shared in both the tax and court registers. Madeline and I should have totally separate economies. I would be out from the children's and Madeline's funds. I had no objections to be left out from Madeline's funds, but about the children's was insulting to me. My comments to Rupert for interfering in our family economy, I suggested him to put up his damn money in his ass, and I even offered to help him by kicking it up there. Rupert didn't care what I said, but his wife, who had heard everything, went straight home and have refused talking to me during several months after that. Madeline and I had a real quarrel about Rupert's condition because she appreciated her father's gift very much, while I was totally against letting Rupert, the rat, put his big nose into our family business. After several hard arguing sessions, I at last accepted Madeline's suggestion that both of us would pay an equal % of our salary each month to a shared account for our family expenses, and the remaining part would be for private use. The children's funds, small potatoes as they were, would be jointly managed. Then the quarrel settled. Our relation went back to happy family again, except that Madeline's parents and I avoided each other as much as we could. What was okay for me? Madeline rang me at my job a Thursday afternoon saying that some of her coworkers had persuaded her to join them after their job after work, chat at nearby pub for a couple of hours if it was okay for me. My only question was, isn't after work usually at Fridays? Why a Thursday? Her reply about married people preferring Friday fun with their children at Friday evenings. That sounded reasonable, why I had no further questions. The next Thursday, she told me already at the morning that they would go for after work even that evening. What was okay for me again? At home, everything went fine until 6 o'clock when our daughter Matilda cut her hand when she fell over a flower vase she had been carrying without me noticing that. Her hand was bleeding so much that it had to be stitched to the hospital. A call to the next house neighbor fixed babysitter for Alexander, then I called Madeline's cell phone. She took the call after surprisingly many signals, and I told her what had happened. Told her that Matilda was crying for mom and asked her if she was sober enough for driving to come to the hospital. She said she was, and we agreed to meet there. On the way to the hospital, I had a strange feeling that Matilda's accident wasn't the only bad matter during that evening. After much thinking about everything during the evening, the answer hit me as a lightning. It was Madeline's reply to my phone call. Not only her long time to reply, but even the silence behind her. No bar sound in the background. Wherever she had been when taking my call, it hadn't been at a crowded bar. We met at the emergency room where Madeline agreed to stay with Matilda, and I went back home for taking care of Alexander. This damn Thursday was probably the worst day both in my and my children's whole life. Not only the few stitches on Matilda's hand, but our main problem was that now I was 100% sure that Madeline had been doing something behind my back, and I would be getting some evidence and file for divorce within rather near future, and nothing could stop it this time. My irrevocable decision about divorce was taken at the same moment I saw her at the hospital. A short look at her was enough to make it obvious, and without any reasonable doubt, that my phone call had interrupted her F with a lover boy and dragged up her from the bed where that act had taken place. To Madeline's credit must be said that she hadn't wasted any time for fixing her hair and makeup when her child was crying for her. Just as I expected, Madeline went straight to the shower when she was back home. She didn't say anything about her interrupted after work, and I didn't ask because I wanted to get further information about her possible cheating before taking any action.